Jennifer took her seat as if she were stepping onto a stage, her excitement bright and sharp, a spark struck from flint. The chair accepted her with a soft sigh, upholstered in cream so pale it seemed to glow, and for a moment she simply sat, hands folded, heart tapping out a quick, delighted rhythm. This was it. This was the table. The dining room unfolded around her like a cathedral dedicated not to gods but to achievement. Chandeliers dripped light instead of crystal, each droplet refracting gold across walls panelled in dark polished wood. The ceiling soared, painted with scenes so subtle and refined that they whispered rather than shouted their artistry. Even the air felt curated, cool, faintly scented with citrus and something floral she could not name. It was magnificent. It was opulent. It was undeniable. This restaurant sat at the heart of one of the world's greatest hotels, a place whose name alone drew gasps. The waiting list stretched for months, sometimes years, spoken of in hushed, secretive tones. To dine here was not simply to eat, it was to announce arrival. People came not just with reservations, but with resumes. Jennifer knew this, and the knowledge settled over her shoulders like a tailored jacket. She had earned this seat. She had worked for it. From a childhood defined by second-hand shoes and careful budgeting, she had climbed, rung by rung, into the rarefied air of global finance. Long nights, missed weekends, a tireless forward motion. Now, in her 30s, she advised corporations whose names filled newspapers, negotiated deals that moved markets, and lived in an apartment that looked down on a city that never slept. Money was her primary language. She let her gaze drop to the table. It was laid out with military precision, every item positioned as if measured by laser. The tablecloth was snow white, pressed so sharply it could have cut paper. The plate sat perfectly centered, a flawless circle of porcelain rimmed with a thread of silver. Forks lay to the left, knives and spoons to the right, each aligned, each identical, their surfaces gleaming like still water. The glassware rose above the setting in a careful hierarchy. Water, white wine, red. Crystal so thin it seemed almost fragile, yet strong enough to survive generations. Nothing was accidental. Nothing was out of place. Jennifer felt a thrill ripple through her, quickly followed by something quieter, heavier. She inhaled, exhaled. This was what she had wanted, wasn't it? The first course arrived with silent ceremony. The server moved like a shadow, smooth and unobtrusive, placing before her a dish that looked less like food and more like sculpture. A sliver of cured fish, translucent and blushing, rested atop a smear of emerald green puree. Microgreens crowned it like jewels. The chef, legendary for his precision, had transformed simplicity into spectacle. She took a bite. The flavors bloomed across her tongue, salt and sweetness, sea and earth, perfectly balanced. It was exquisite. It was flawless. And yet, as she swallowed, her chest tightened just slightly, like a knot being pulled. The second course followed, then the third. Each arrived in sequence, a procession of brilliance. A hand-dived scallop seared to caramelized perfection, paired with foam light as breath. A handmade pasta filled with truffle and ricotta, rich and indulgent, coated in a sauce that clung lovingly to every curve. The kitchen worked like a symphony, each chef a musician, each plate a note in a grand composition. Jennifer ate. She praised. She nodded politely when the sommelier spoke. But with every bite, her mood shifted, not upward as expected, but downward, sinking like a stone through clear water. The room seemed larger now, the space between tables wider. The laughter from nearby diners sounded distant, muted, as if filtered through glass. Repetition crept in, uninvited, bite after bite, course after course, perfection after perfection. By the time dessert arrived, her smile felt brittle. The plate before her was a masterpiece, a sphere of tempered chocolate, glossy and dark, encasing layers of mousse and fruit, surrounded by a delicate lattice of spun sugar. It was a work of art. It was the culmination. It was the moon she had spent years trying to capture. She stared at it, fork poised, and something inside her gave way. The emptiness rose, sudden and overwhelming, a hollow echoing through her rib cage. She could no longer ignore it, no longer pretend. Was this normal? Was this what it felt like when a dream was finally achieved, when there was nothing left to chase? She tried to hide from the truth, but the meal had betrayed her. It had awakened memories long buried, memories she thought she had escaped, but which lived on quietly, patiently, as vital to her as her heart and lungs. Her mind drifted, unbidden, to a small house and a small table that somehow always grew to fit everyone. The table wobbled slightly, one leg shorter than the others, but no one ever complained. Elbows knocked elbows. Plates were passed hand to hand. People ate in a careful, unconscious rhythm like weavers working a loom, each movement dependent on the person sitting on either side. Chairs came from everywhere: kitchen, bedroom, garden, borrowed from neighbours who never asked why. Some people sat higher, some lower, a comical patchwork of heights that sparked laughter before the meal even began. The table was covered in a bright, shiny plastic cloth that stuck to bare arms in summer and smelled faintly of cleaning spray. Knives and forks never matched. Some people had forks only, some had spoons. Glasses were mismatched too, tall, short, thick, thin, some plastic. But none of it mattered. Not one bit. What mattered was the noise, the warmth, the way laughter filled every corner, joy dancing from wall to wall. The humour sparked and spread, quick and contagious. As a young girl, Jennifer had looked around those faces and known with absolute certainty that no one wished to be anywhere else in the world. The food had been nothing special, vegetables cooked too long, meat dry, rescued only by thick gravy stirred from a packet. And yet she would give everything she owned to sit at that table again, surrounded by those people, feeling that fullness that had nothing to do with eating. The contradiction struck her now with painful clarity. Here, in this sterile, cold, perfect room, everything was visible, polished, admired. There, in that small home, so much had been lacking, and yet nothing was missing. Jennifer blinked, the dining room snapping back into focus. The chocolate sphere waited patiently, indifferent to her epiphany. Money could buy ingredients flown across oceans. It could buy talent, time, space, but it could not recreate the meal she yearned for. It could not summon that feeling made possible by the absence of material things. Slowly, deliberately, she placed her napkin on the table. The fabric whispered against porcelain. She pushed back her chair. It scraped softly, defiantly. As she walked away, the chandeliers glittered on, the cutlery gleamed, the room whispered with confident superiority. None of it followed her. Jennifer knew what she needed to do. Outside, she took out her phone and scrolled until she found the name of her friend she had known since school. It was a number she had been meaning to call for months, but meetings, flights, and deadlines had always seemed to get in the way. Not this time. So that's definite, she said, casting the day and time proposed now firmly in stone. Chips in the park with the gang, no excuses. As she slipped the phone back into her pocket, Jennifer felt lighter. This time next week, they would eat with their fingers, drink from cans, talk nonsense, and laugh until it hurt. And it would be joyous.